Hello to one, hello to all. So, we landed in the UK towards the end of the summer of 1980. We were placed in a closed down hospice along with a dozen other families. I can't remember the name of the area, but it is somewhere in the southeast of England. Things and events I remembered from back then are my first encounter with comic books. Popular TV programs were Hammer House of Horror and The Twilight Zone. The first time I saw snow fall, I tried to open a window to touch it by pushing on the glass rather than the window frames. As the building was very old, the glass broke and I got cut on the wrist. Luckily, it missed my main artery. A few people saw ghostly apparitions. Not surprising, as it was an ex-hospice. Picked up some English words. We were there for about 2 to 3 months, the most. Once the authorities had decided on where to place each family, we were moved off camp pretty quickly. Not sure how they made the decisions, but we moved to the north of Wolverhampton into a new development village called Purton. The reason I said it was a new village because all the houses and flats were recently built or in the building process. We were left to our own devices once we were given housing. As I was the youngest of the family, I was tasked with picking up the language as soon as possible to help with translating for family and neighbours at the doctor's and social security office. Therefore, I did not really have a chance to live out my normal childhood years. Within a year after we settled in Purton, we managed to do the paperwork and got the rest of my family to come over from China, minus our maternal grandfather, as he passed away the year before. I can still remember clearly the first month at school because it wasn't an easy start to my school life in the UK. Thankfully, it was only at the beginning that it was difficult. Like I have mentioned before in the previous episode. By the early 80s, Bruce Lee films took off in the cinemas, and every Asian person were expected to be a Kung Fu master. For the first month in school, I had at least a couple of fights a week. As I was quite small in stature and most students thought it should be easy to push this kid around. What they didn't know was that the person inside that little body wasn't going to let the simplest thing pass by without having a go. After what he had been through to get here. Thankfully, after a few fights in the first month, things settled down and kids move on to the next craze. I was quite lucky to have had a kind and supportive English teacher. For the first 3 months, she would sit with me during break time and lunchtime to help me with reading and explaining each word and sentence that I did not understand. She always made sure that I had plenty of books to read overnight before leaving school each day. Eventually, the list of words and sentences I struggled with got shorter and shorter, and I finally managed to enjoy break time and lunch time like other kids in school. Those were the two events that are still fresh in my memory today. Speeding up the story, my school days were pretty much quite dull. With me passing the O-levels and then scraping through my A-levels, I went part-time working soon after finishing my O-levels. Every Friday night, straight after school, I worked in a Chinese takeaway kitchen until midnight Sunday. So by Monday mornings, I was too tired for school and therefore my education suffered. Things got so bad that my physics teacher had a quiet word with me after just 4 weeks into my A-levels to let me know that either I improve quickly with the coursework or find another subject to study. Hence, I only scraped through my A-levels and I ended up going to Leicester Polytechnic. The name was changed to the Montfort University in my final year there. Life away from school wasn't great throughout my teenage years, as I experienced quite a few losses with friends and family members. To start with, the uncle who adopted me was only 42 years old, and he succumbed to colon cancer. It was painful watching him waste away to just skin and bones day by day. He was also in pain constantly, and each time I called the doctor, he was told again and again there was nothing more they could do for him. He was a massive loss to me because even though I only lived with him for a few years, he was a lot more of a dad to me than my real father was. A year or two later, our oldest sister left the house for a night out and sadly never came back. She was a passenger in a car on the way home, and it got hit by another car driven by a drunk driver at over 100 miles per hour. So no one in the next generation even knows they have a second aunt within the family. Two of my very best friends I've managed to make dropped out of school straight after our O-levels. One wasn't academically inclined, so I understood why he would like to start work. But the other one had better O-levels results than I did, and he was the one who got me into reading horror novels and Laurel and Hardy TV programs. Another good friend I had, who I played tennis with regularly, started A-levels, but sadly passed away in a car accident within the first year. Needless to say, school life was just not the same after that. That was the first time I encountered what you could call life's ebb and flow, although I did not realize this back then. Another 3 great friends that I had within the Vietnamese refugee community were also gained and lost between the start and end of my teenage years. It was a big shock to me how I lost these mates. We were so close that we could have been brothers, as we did everything together, like getting drunk, go on foreign holidays, even went down to London and got scammed in strip joints. But as soon as they got girlfriends, they just disappear from my life instantly without even a simple word of goodbye. To be honest, I was quite shocked and did not understand why until much later on in life. The funny thing was, I did not even recognize my biggest loss until years later, even though it happened the day I started higher education. I left all my siblings behind as none of them had the desire to study beyond the compulsory school age. There we have it, viewers. These are the main items and events that was the start to my UK life. I don't think you can disagree with me when I say my childhood life did not exist. Living through my teenage years was like seeing life from a time-lapse movie. People came and went so quickly and naturally as though it was a script written into my life story. So friends, the lesson for your time is to reflect on your losses as much as your gains, and you will understand a lot more of yourself today. I guess starting university life with a clean slate could be the best thing anyone can have, right? Let's save that chapter of my life for the next episode.